Hello, welcome to Microsoft Build 2017. My name is Amit Shrivastava. I'm a program manager with Azure Networking. Today, I'm going to talk about how to secure your web applications using Application Gateway's Web Application Firewall or WAF. I'll be talking about WAF's features, capabilities, logging and analytics, integration with Azure Security Center, and I'll also do a demo. Before starting with Azure Application Gateway Web Application Firewall, I wanted to talk a little bit about Application Gateway and its capabilities. So Application Gateway is our Layer 7 load balancer. It performs as Application Delivery Controller as a service in Azure. We launched in 2015, June of 2015, with SSL offload and cookie-based session affinity as the key scenarios. Since then, we have added quite a lot of functionality, including SSL policy, where you can control your protocol versions. You can, for example, say allow TLS 1.1 or 1.2 and deny TLS 1.0. You can also do end-to-end SSL re-encryption if you don't want your communication from application gateway to the backend over HTTP. You can protect up to 20 websites behind a single application gateway. You can have different backend pools and serve 20 websites at the same time. If you have enabled WAF, you can protect up to 20 websites at the same time. You can also do content-based routing. For example, here I'm showing video and images going to their own backend pools, and you can scale these pools independently. So you can have bigger boxes on the video and smaller on the images, for example, or static text, and scale them. You can also do WebSocket support. You can have, we also provide rich diagnostics with Application Gateway. So for example, we provide access logs, which is a count of every request and response which is received by Application Gateway. It shows the total number of bytes sent in, bytes sent out, client IP, other data like latency, and URI path. So that's great for knowing what is Application Gateway receiving and how it's responding. We also have performance logs, which show the details on Application Gateway instances themselves. So you can look at how many requests are being served, what is the average throughput, average latency, what is the number of backend healths which are healthy, or the number of backends which are unhealthy. We also provide a real-time backend health API. So by default, when Application Gateway comes up, it probes every backend at a fixed interval. You can customize them using custom probes, and using backend health API, you can get real-time information on which of the backends are healthy. Now, given the central place where we do certificate management and SSL policies, it made sense for us to enhance our security portfolio and provide you with a web application firewall. So let's go into that. Web applications are increasingly becoming targets of very sophisticated exploits which target layer 7 application vulnerabilities. These attacks are becoming more and more prevalent. OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, publishes a list of top 10 vulnerabilities. These include vulnerabilities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, to name a few. If application developers want to prevent these vulnerabilities, they have to be very diligent in their code. They have to have very strict reviews, and not every application undergoes such a process. Therefore, having a web application firewall sitting in front of these applications greatly enhances the security profile of that application. Now, many of these profiles are inherently difficult. These WAF solutions are difficult to configure and maintain. Moreover, our customers want a single unified API which they are familiar with, and they don't want to go into another solution and have another configuration, another way of looking at logs, another way of hooking with monitoring and alerts. They want a platform provided uniform solution, which is at the same time simple to configure and operate. Keeping that in mind, Web Application Firewall was launched from application gateway side. We declared preview during last Ignite, and we declared GA in March of 2017. It's now generally available and there for everyone to use. Web Application Firewall is offered as a new SKU in Application Gateway called WAF. With Web Application Firewall or WAF SKU, you get all the features which I described in an earlier slide, which is part of the standard SKU, and you get WAF capability. Now, Web Application Firewall is built using core rule sets from Mod Security. When we launched in preview, we supported core rule set 2.2.9. Today, we support core rule set 2.2.9 as well as 3.0. Now, Mod Security core rule set is one of the most popular WAF deployments and has a lot of community adoption and support. That is one of the reasons we chose to go with Mod Security as the de facto standard. It comes pre-configured. When you create the application gateway WAF, with just a click of a button, you can provide protection from most of the common vulnerabilities like SQL injection, protocol violation, cross-site scripting, local file inclusions, and so on. I'll cover in detail these protections in a later slide. Now, this solution is part of Application Gateway. It is fully managed by Azure, and you can use your same familiar APIs. Today, we allow you to create Application Gateway Firewall using our portal, the Azure portal. You can use CLI, PowerShell, SDK, whatever is your choice, or you could use ARM templates for that matter. It is available only in the Azure Resource Manager SKU, and you can enable the WAF solution. Essentially, you choose two modes, either a prevention or a detection mode. As the name suggests, detection mode just monitors your web application traffic. It does not stop the attack. This is good for you to monitor your web application and see what kind of exploit pattern it's getting, if it is seeing any attacks or if it is seeing any malicious traffic. Once you identify such a traffic, you can always go and change it from detection to prevention mode, in which case it actually starts blocking the traffic. A user or an attacker who is trying to send a malicious traffic or a bot will get a 403 forbidden access, and that connection would be terminated in prevention mode. Now, a key requirement for any WAF solution is to allow the user to eliminate false positives by allowing rule configurability. At GA, we have also added options for users to enable and disable individual rules or rule sets. I'll cover that as well. Another key requirement is for the application developer or administrator to be fully aware of what the exploits he is seeing at any given point of time. Therefore, monitoring becomes a key requirement. Azure WAF integrates directly with Azure Monitor, which is a uniform way of all Azure resources to send data, log data, and integrate with alerts. Azure also integrates with WAF also integrates with Azure Security Center, and I'll cover that in the next slide as well. So, as I was saying, that at preview time, we allowed only one rule set schema, which was CRS 2.2.9. Now we have added CRS 3.0 support as well. CRS 3 offers a new addition of rules and greatly reduces the total false positives which an application sees. And therefore, we by default start with 3.0. And if the user wishes, they can always switch from 3.0 to 2.2.9 or vice versa. With just a click of a button, with just your same provisioning APIs, out of box you get protection from SQL injection, cross-site scripting. We also provide a HTTP rate limiting. We protect you from session fixation, local file inclusion or remote file inclusion, and protocol violations. So that's extremely powerful. Without doing any kind of configuration, you straight away get protection from these APIs, from these attacks. And you can always come and choose which rules you want to enable for your application. You can choose whether you want to be in prevention or detection mode and switch between them as well. Now, as I mentioned that to eliminate false positives, one of the key requirements which we took care of from preview to GA time was allowing rule configurability. So you can see that a rule set like CRS 2.2.9 is composed of various broad rule groups, for example, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, or protocol violations. And each of these rule groups is in itself composed of many different rules. There are probably 30 or 40 rules in many of these rule groups. And what we have observed based on feedback is that sometimes a specific rule is causing a false positive for the customers, and they want to turn that specific rule off. So now we allow that. You can disable your entire rule group. For example, you can say that you are not connecting to a SQL database, and therefore SQL injection is probably not of that much importance to you. You can turn that entire rule group off. Or you could have cross-site scripting rule group on, but turn off an individual granular rule inside that rule group. We support both. And similarly, you can also switch from prevention and detection mode, and you can also switch rule sets themselves. So you can switch from 2.2.9 to 3.0 and vice versa. We offer both capabilities. Now, monitoring is extremely important. It's an integral part of any solution, especially for WAF. So by default, when you create a web application firewall, we ask you to turn on the Azure Monitor capabilities. I mentioned the performance log, the access log, the backend health in a previous discussion. With Web Application Firewall SKU, you get a Web Application Firewall log integrated as well. Now, every time, either in detection or prevention, in both modes, we send any exploits which we detect to Azure Monitor. And from there, this is sent in a JSON format, and it can flow directly to your storage account, the customer's storage account, or it can flow to a customer's event hub. Or you could also turn it on with OMS analytics so that you can do log search on these logs. And I'll cover those in detail. Because it is integrated with Azure Monitor, you can call a REST API and get these logs yourself and integrate into any third-party tool of your choice. You could also do it with a call from Azure Storage as well. And I'll show you the log format in demo. The Web Application Firewall is also integrated with Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center is a central place in Azure for you to get recommendations, define policies, and monitor your application's health and receive alerts on any attacks at one central location. With this integration, Azure Security Center is able to recommend Microsoft WAF as one of the solutions for any VM it detects as vulnerable. So you could scan your subscription and it would tell you that these are the VMs which are vulnerable and recommend a WAF, and Microsoft WAF is also recommended now. You can, from there, directly deploy a web application firewall and protect that particular VM. Not only that, once you have enabled the WAF through Azure Security Center, we send periodic alerts for any attack or exploit which we detect. The same way that we are sending alerts to the Azure Monitor, we send it to Azure Security Center. And at that one central location, you can see your application health and also take a look at all the alerts which it has received. So those are the main capabilities. I would now go to a demo and show you these capabilities in portal as well as code. Let's take a look at how the web application, how simple it is to create a new web application firewall and how simple it is to configure. So if I wanted to create a new web application gateway with web application firewall, I would just follow a few basic steps. I would do a build demo. I only have to choose a WAF and I choose my queue size, medium or large, I'll create a new resource group. I will let the location be. And then I would choose a virtual network. You can always create a new virtual network. I would have to create a public IP address. And let's just have a listener which is just listening on HTTP port 80 is fine. And we want a web application firewall with enabled, and let's say we want it in prevention mode. And that's it. With those few simple steps, I'm creating a web application firewall with CRS 3.0 as default. For demo, I have already created a web application firewall and I wanted to show you that. So here you can see that I created a web application firewall with rule set of 2.2.9, and I have optionally turned off a few rules. For example, in CRS 20 protocol violations, I have turned off URL including abuse attacker. Similarly, I could either enable it or turn off another rule and save it. And that's about it. That's how I just get rule configuration from this web application firewall. Now, I also did a very simple application. This is probably as vulnerable application as possible. This is a comments application, and all it does is it just accepts a username and comment as input, and that is it. It then just tries to write it back to the file system. So that was the application which I was showing, and you can see that this is just a simple comment wall, and I can write a comment, and that should be fine. Let's write a valid comment, and I can see that it's valid now. Let's try to do something which is not valid. I'm trying to inject a script inside, and the WAF detects it, that this is a script injection attempt. It detects these anomalous characters and shows a 403. In fact, this particular firewall is reliant on 2.2.9, and therefore I would not be able to browse it just using the IP. It expects me to have a proper host header which is not numeric, and it detects that the host header in this case is just a numeric IP string, and therefore it just doesn't allow it. Similarly, I can try and do hello and then classic 1 equal 1, and that also should be disabled. So you see that we have configured a web application firewall with 2.2.9, and it just detected a script injection or a simple SQL injection attempt or a protocol anomaly with a numeric value in host header. Now, I can always go to this particular application gateway and look at its diagnostics logs. Now, I had turned the diagnostics logs on. This is a central way in Azure to turn on diagnostics. And you can see that it has generated access logs. It has generated performance logs for application gateway performance itself, and it has generated application gateway firewall logs. I could download these and look for vulnerabilities. So you can see that it is logging each and every vulnerability it has found in this interval, and this is formatted in a simple JSON format. The key things to notice over here is that for example, let's look at this particular log. It says that the client which tried to do this was this IP from this port, and it was just requesting, this is the URL it was requesting, and this it gives a detailed message of what exactly went wrong. This particular request was missing an accept header, and therefore it says that it threw an access denied with this code. For example, here you can see that I had earlier tried to do the same, and I have gotten that log. it is trying to do, I was trying to access it through the IP, and it clearly says host header is a numeric IP address. Right? So this is how the log flows. I can also go into the log analytics. I have just configured an OMS log analytics. I created a new workspace over there and configured that. And now I can do a log search. So I could just search and I could search, for example, anomaly. And it would show me that, hey, access was denied because of, I was trying to do a hello, and I was trying to do some other pattern match. And you can see all of these. You can search by rule IDs as well. So this is how you do a log search. It is completely integrated with OMS, and this is just a simple log search I'm showing. You can do quite a lot of other sophisticated queries as well. I also wanted to show Security Center. So I go to Security Center. And here are the recommendations. I followed one of those recommendations and configured a log, application gateway firewall. And here you can see at one central location, you can see all the alerts which it has generated. So it has generated alerts for today. And you can see these new alerts, which is 949 blocking evaluation, or RCE correlation protocol enforcement, and so on. So this is how you can look at your existing solution. If you wanted a new solution, you could always look at the recommendations from Azure Security Center, and you can add a web application firewall. For example, let's say this Ubuntu VM is not protected right now. I had created an existing solution with application gateway called ASC test. Let's try to create a new one. And it shows all the possible options. And application gateway is one such option. And when you click on that and you click create, it takes you to the familiar API which I showed you earlier on how to create a web application file. So that concludes the ASC integration. And how do you do this through a programmatic way? It's straightforward. If you have configured a web application firewall using ARM templates, the amount of addition for this is minimal. All you need to do is add a web application firewall configuration section into the Azure Resource Manager template, and you simply just say what is your firewall mode, whether it is protection or detection. You say your rule set type. You can see the rule set type in the parameters. Your rule set is OWASP, and the rule set type is OWASP, and the version is 3.0. So you just specify that, and that's it. So with this much, you can create a web application firewall out of box with 3.0 protection. I'm also showing you that if you wanted to disable a particular rule or an array of rules, all you needed to do was give the rule set name and give all the rules, the rule group name, and all the rules within that group. And that's it. You just execute this, and it would reconfigure the web application firewall and block these particular rules. It will just remove them from the configuration. And that is it for the demo. Let's go back to this slide. That concludes my demo. The key takeaways are, which you should remember, is that with application gateway, you not only get the layer 7 load balancer with all the capabilities, but you can also now centralize your security, enhance it further, and have a web application firewall at a central location without changing any code. As I mentioned, application gateway can protect up to 20 websites at the same time. You can eliminate false positives by customizing your rules, by choosing a rule set or customizing rule groups or individual rules within that rule group. It is easy to configure and manage. It continuously emits logs both into Azure Monitor and Azure Security Center. You can continuously monitor and change your WAF settings depending on what you observe. You can also scale out application gateway by just adding more instances. If you see a bottleneck in performance, you can add more instances, and that would increase the throughput and capacity of your gateway. Thank you.